shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist. A young loner on a crusade to champion the cause of the innocent, the helpless, the powerless, in a world of criminals who operate above the law.
Hey, it's me, and welcome to Trump Mafia. Now, we're in the golden age. It's only been half a year, but President Trump really has a Midas touch. He's a very stable genius and a 5D chess-playing Viking lord, the godfather of the Trump Mafia, most valuable player, 45 and 47. Making America great again. It's really happening, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's only just the beginning. We'll never have a president like this again, I can tell you that. Meanwhile, I want to get the skinny on the Russia hoax. Just the other day I was thinking about how this thing really evolved. Never mind the emotions or the propaganda out there. I really see it as it happening in three main phases, and so I want to go way back for phase one and kind of show how this thing can actually happen. And we have to go all the way back to 2012 and 2014. So let's get into the Trump Mafia time machine and go back to the years of Choco and Bogo, Barack Hussein Obama, and those miserable years when we had a Kenyan stickman, so-called president. Now, so many things happened. Benghazi, creating ISIS, financing and arming Syrian rebels, really ISIS and Al-Qaeda people, and guess what? In 2025, an Al-Qaeda guy's now in charge of Syria. But at the time, we also had Lindsey Graham, John McCain going to Ukraine and prepping for the coup. And there was a coup in 2014. And before that and afterwards, you have the UK Defense Ministry, MI6, all of them, and other Western European countries and their intel people and our spooks completely focused on hating on Russia. Okay, this whole thing has been building up, and it's a war of their own making. They really wanted a war against Russia, using Ukraine as a proxy, and then as a result, having a NATO base in Ukraine. That was the plan. So they already started investigating people that may be anti-war, or they may be arguing that we should be friends with Russia. And these are people with influence that are then investigated by the Brits, James Bond and the others, and our guys, Jason Bourne and the others. And President Trump was a guy that really qualified, because even in 2012, MI6 was spying on the guy because he was in Scotland building these resorts and golf courses. So MI6 created a department to spy on Trump. And who was head of that department? Christopher Steele. So they came up with a lot of innuendos and rumors, but nothing concrete, right? They thought Russian oligarchs were financing Trump. The usual TDS stuff. But a lot of that ended up being in the Trump dossier, as Christopher Steele started up his own company, and then he was called upon to deliver dirt on President Trump, right, to prove Russia collusion. So it really started partly because of the march to war against Russia and looking for people that may be peaceniks, or people that want a good relationship with Russia and are against never-ending wars, all of that. And as you know, the Ukraine scam, so many people got rich. So we're talking about a lot of people hand-wringing, waiting for the big payout, right? Millions and millions and billions. But there's another thing. In 2012, President Trump, then Donald Trump, came out And he really humiliated Choco and Bogo, Barack Hussein Obama, asking about his grades and why they're hidden and his certificate of birth. And he was saying everything that we were saying, right? What's this fraud doing? And Choco and Bogo got very angry, very offended. And that is because he's exposed, right? So you quickly had a Bin Laden raid to change the subject. And sadly, he was reelected. Mainly because, once again, the deep state put up a rhino Democrat, like Mitt Romney, just like in 2008 they put up John McCain. So even if Choco could lose, then you have a rhino Democrat instead. So it's like a no-win situation for the American people. Anyway, so he got reelected. And then shortly thereafter, you have a coup in Ukraine. So it turns out that Choco and Bogo was so angry that in 2015, two things happened. When President Trump announced his run for president, you had all these deep state people that were hating on Russia saying, hey, Trump is kind of pro-Russia, right? And then James Bond calls Jason Bourne and goes like, hey, we have some stuff on Trump with Russians, right? They didn't have much, just gossip. So they sent all their stuff to our spooks. And that's in 2015, as soon as President Trump announced, right? You have the Brits sticking their ugly noses with warts and all into our business once again, as has been the case for centuries now. And John Brennan went with it. And so they already started having meetings with Choco and Bogo in the White House. Yeah, even in 2015, various intel agencies put spies on Trump people, Papadopoulos, Carter Page, and you have mysterious people like Stephen Hopper, Alexander Downer, the mysterious Joseph Misfoot, and all these shenanigans basically to kind of entrap Trump people, to make them say something, anything, that could be construed as being pro-Russia or whatnot. And all of that is in 2015, early 2016. So even then, the FBI and the CIA were involved. And they were having meetings with Choco and Bogo. Now, the second thing that happened is that, of course, Choco and Bogo never thought Trump could actually win an election. He thought, like most other Democrats, that he was just doing it for his business or, being a reality star and all. That he was just jerking everybody off. But Choco and Bogo was still very angry, seething, you could say, brooding, Choco and Bogo is very much like Will Smith. On the outside, they're all jovial and laid back, and they're fun guys, right? And the truth is, the both of them, they're like cold fish on the inside, hateful and seething and always seeking revenge, and they're very insecure. And so they have a hatred inside of them. So Choco and Bogo is still very bitter about being humiliated by the great Donald Trump in 2012. That he saw this as a chance to go after the Trump organization and put Trump in jail, even if it was something that was not related to Russia. If spying on Trump delivers something else, then you can use that. So you had deep state people looking for any Russian connections because they were marching towards war. And then Choco and Bogo and his ilk were looking to take down the great Donald Trump, right? And to put him in jail for what he said in 2012. Revenge of the Kenyan nerd, as I said back then, right? Always from in the shadows or from behind the scenes, scheming his revenge actions, right? So, of course, he will use the FBI and the CIA for that. So that's phase one. So at that time, of course, they didn't even think Trump would win any primaries and all of that, but he started winning and winning and winning and winning and still talking about Choco and Bogo. And Hillary with her emails and all of that, even though people like Trey Gowdy and Paul Ryan were protecting the Clintons, still, Choco and Bogo was worried about his legacy. So phase two started around the summer of 2016 when they saw that Trump was really winning a lot. And so they weaponized the Trump dossier and all the intel they could. We're talking about lies here. And to spy on Trump some more using the FBI. And the FBI complied happily, greedily, and nefariously. And that's James Comey, right? But also John Brennan, James Clapper, all of them. They were really on a war path, a jihad, you could say, against Donald J. Trump. And these are the documents that you're now seeing, is that in phase two, they sabotaged a presidential campaign. They sabotaged the U.S. elections. They rigged the elections. But Hillary still lost, right? Hilarious. But then came phase three, and that is Trump actually wins. Then they go in full treason mode, seditious conspiracy, an attack on America, on the American government, and on the choice of the American people. I mean, they went full treason. And so people have to go to jail. Some heads have got to roll for this. Otherwise, we don't have a country. It's really that simple. I mean, you commit treason. Back in the day, people just get executed for that. Now it's like, treason. So what's for dinner? We cannot be like that. We have to be a serious nation. So even though it's 10 years ago, there's no limitation on treason, right? They did it, and now we see the documents. We have the proof. Now heads have got to roll. And I want to see at least 5 big fish arrested, indicted, and jailed. Because you notice with election 2020, the impeachments and the lawfare on Trump and January the 6th, that when you don't punish these people, it will keep on repeating and repeating their hoaxes and their coups and their treason, because they're never held accountable. So it will keep on repeating. They're like demonic children. They only learn the hard way. So that is what has to happen now. And the 2 assassination attempts also have Ukraine links. Phase 1 of Russiagate. You can really trace it back to Ukraine, the path to war. It was supposed to be Hillary in office, and the Ukraine war would have started earlier, and the borders would have been open earlier, and that would have been the end of our republic for reals. But it didn't happen. Now it turns out that Hillary's health was exposed to all of these declassified memos and whatnot, psychotic episodes, lung disease, and completely being out of it, heavy medication. And what is it with Democrats? They really like zombies or half-dead people, right? Like Biden. And they disappear, and I don't know, are they like in a cryogenic chamber or in a coffin, like Dracula? Or are they really almost dead and then they get resuscitated or they get shots and boom, they're back, right? It's like a game of Quake or Doom, and you see Hillary out there, Biden, their corpses. They even had a corpse wheeled out, an ex-president, Carter, and he cannot even talk. He was just laying there like a corpse, and the headline says, Carter endorses Biden. What the hell? Or was it Kamala? I don't know, but it's like, what is it with Democrats? They don't respect the dead, and dead people voting, right? It's like, did they agree to it? I don't think so. I think a lot of dead patriots voted for Biden somehow and did not want to. I can assure you. But back to the Russia hoax. It's really something that happened, connected to Ukraine. Even the first impeachment was connected to Ukraine. But then it morphed into something else, being that Hillary had health problems and also the email problem, the server, top secrets, and private emails, and all of that. And they kind of felt worried. But all throughout the three phases, what you see is the anger, the bitterness of Choco Mbogo, the Kenyan stickman, who was so angry at Trump. But you have to understand, it's not just that Trump humiliated Choco in 2012. It's that Trump is a successful businessman, something Choco could never be. And he's the type, right? Alpha male, American patriot. Everything Choco despises, that's Trump. That's Donald Trump. And so the hatred, the bitterness, the seeking of revenge, it only just escalated from 2015 to early 2016. Then by the end of 2016, Choco Mbogo really wanted Trump in jail for 50 years or executed. And the hatred was so much that Choco just walked into treason and seditious conspiracy. He did that. 100%. And of course, he enjoys presidential immunity. But maybe there's some other way that you can arrest him or indict him. He really does deserve to go to jail. But what about Hillary? What about Soros? What about John Brennan, James Comey, James Clapper, Baker, and Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, all of these people? I mean, we're talking about very sick puppies. Now, the conehead, Beatrice Gaudes, the albino gecko, the human dildo, the snitch. You know, he was obstructing Devin Nunes all the time. Devin Nunes is just too much of a gentleman to really out it. But now Trey Gowdy saying, well, the shame is enough. You don't have to arrest these people. You don't have to jail these people. And it's a swamp, right? Right away they come to the rescue of even Democrats that did treason. And you have people calling for a special counsel for the Russia hoax. We've seen that with Durham. They take all the documents, lock them up for years, and then there's no result. Now it really has to be the DOJ that directly indicts these people and puts them on trial. It has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, if it's all about just exposing this treason, then what is the use, right? What if our police forces were like, there was a robbery. We didn't catch anyone, and even if we did, we wouldn't really indict them or put them in jail. But we want to expose that it happened. It was a robbery. So what? Our FBI, our DOJ becomes a news service with public announcements. And you've seen that, right? Bondi, Cash Patel, Bongino, they're always kind of like doing a media show. And I'm like, I don't want trailers. I don't want melodrama. I want indictments. And now, with Gabbard coming out with all of these documents, there's proof. You know, it's like a slam dunk case. And yeah, you cannot indict Obama so easily because of presidential immunity, but John Brennan, I mean, even getting them on perjury would be very easy, right? And they can go to jail for that. I don't care if they go to jail for perjury or stealing an apple or treason, as long as they're in jail. That's the way I see it. What about you? What do you think? You think anybody's going to get arrested, indicted? And I don't know, I'm so optimistic about it. Maybe by the time you listen to this, somebody is indicted. And hopefully it's a list of 5 people or more, because we cannot let it rest. We cannot let it stand, because it's going to repeat again. And you can see that with the Epstein hoax. They're already working on a new hoax, right? The Epstein hoax. God knows what kind of forgeries they came up with. And they're pushing it, implementing it. But there will be another hoax, and another rigged this, and another rigged that, and another special counsel, another impeachment. I mean, these people will never change. So there's only one solution: put them away, put them in jail, right? And I don't know, they used to hang people on top of a hill so everybody could see it, right? And leave the corpses there for weeks so people would really get the message. And it looks like we need some very big indictments and a big show. Perp walks, everything. The whole works, right? So that people are sent a clear message. Don't mess with us anymore. You know, these deep staters, they think they rule the USA, but they don't.